can I be real?
Yeah.
It's just like the label wouldn't support it. You know how I feel about living in like an oppressed society. So I guess I would want to shout or like scream, and that happens to be called punk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
So
mom figure is a big thing, and like Thai men are kind of softer.
Okay.
They're scared of their wives.
So I'm very, very excited to be here today with Pyra, who I've actually been a fan of for quite a long time. I would say like since 2018.
Oh my god.
Yes, I know. Yes, so that's why the moment I saw that you were coming and you're going to be speaking and you were bringing your new album with you, I was like, no, I have to make time. I have to do this with you. And I have to do the full bang. Like I have to get you and have a sit down interview and talk to you about, what's been going on, because I know that you've been doing a lot. You just released your debut album, and also I know that you moved to London in the last few years. So how are you so far? Like you've moved. When did you move from London?
I was in London for 2 years.
Yeah.
Right after COVID like stopped, and then I'm just back in Bangkok like last October just to travel, like to visit friends
like
and stuff.
Base, like a mini base.
But then I realized that wow, like this is the place that is now very happening.
Yes.
Like in the world.
Yes.
Not talking in Asia, it's in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, because moving to London, I see that after the war breaks, like the Russian-Ukraine war, the whole Europe is like it's
not as stable.
Economically is very bad, and the war's not going to stop because the US and Russia is totally reaping the gain from the wars, and like the NATO country is the one suffering.
For sure.
Yeah, so everything's so expensive, and now Bangkok, like so many events, like eyes are on Thailand right now. I'm just like, wow, why did I leave?
But you mentioned that, I mean, in your album you also talk a lot about your outspokenness for your activism and why you felt that you had to move to London. So is that something that continues to play a part in your reason to stay in London? Like, because like I'm not too familiar with like how the Thai government and all of that kind of stuff works, but like maybe you can share a little bit more about your reasons for moving to London, and is it possible for you to live in Thailand?
I mean, like, a lot of the interview, like, they asked me if I'm back in Thailand for good, or like forever. And like, my answer is that, like, nobody knows what's gonna happen with life. Nobody knows, like, what life is gonna bring you.
Yeah.
So I'm in Bangkok, like, for now, for a year now, trying to rent, like a place. So it's gonna be like a 1-year contract thing.
Okay.
Yeah, but like I don't know where life would take me, and I hope life would take me to somewhere interesting. Yeah, I like to do like go to new places, explore the world, like I did in London and in Europe. And now I'm back because like economics it's great.
Yep.
But I don't know. Depends on how it goes.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Speaking of new places, I mean, I'm sure you've been to Singapore before, but when was the last time that you were here? Was it recently, or has it been a while since you've been back?
Actually, I was just here in I think late November.
Oh, okay, so very recent.
Yeah, for the fourth 30 under 30 summit.
Ah, I see. Okay, yes, very
fun.
recent. Nice.
Yeah.
So, what's your impression of like Singapore?
Singapore to me is like utopian island. Like utopian but dystopian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like pristine. Like,
oh my god.
A bit sterile.
It is the album my album name.
Yeah.
Yeah, here. This is like PYRADISE. This is my merch.
Yeah.
And the album is called PYRADISE.
Yes.
And Singapore is like
Paradise. Basically Paradise.
Yeah.
But how do you feel about that? Do you feel that it's good, it's not good, or you don't know how to feel?
I think it's good if you're rich. Just like anywhere else. Like in London, in Bangkok, it's definitely like, heaven if you're rich. But there are people that are suffering and still trying to make ends meet,
Of course.
And I know that in Singapore it's very hard for them.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I mean, you were just talking about your album, which I literally, like I told you, I've been waiting for it for ages. I think you've changed a lot in terms of your musical style, like over time. But recently, you kind of like coined this term, like dystopian pop, which is now your new brand moving forward. Like, how did you come to the realization of that new sound for yourself?
I like appreciate you for understanding what I'm doing. It's like dystopian pop, like brand. Yes, I am the one who coined the term because I know that we need to like establish, you know, that like buzzword whatsoever.
Yeah.
And to me, like sonically, it changes over time, but the thing that holds everything together is the dystopian message.
Yeah.
So I would tell, you know, like my audience or like the media that just think of me as like George Orwell. I'm doing the exact same thing, but I'm using music as a medium while he writes.
Right. Yeah. So it's like social critique, like commentary, just to get people to think about all of that kind of stuff. And this theme has been going through your music for quite a while already, like since like 2020. I want to say. Yes, I told you I'm like I'm serious. I'm not joking.
Oh my God, I love this.
Yeah. So like this for me, like it feels like PYRADISE is kind of like a conglomeration, like everything just coming together. What was it that, you know, took you 4 years to put out this debut album and this like very, you know, complete work?
Can I be real?
Yeah.
It's just like the label wouldn't support it. Yeah, everyone's just like, oh, put out an EP. It's like too early for you to put out an album.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay.
And like, why the hell did I listen? I have no idea. Because it's just 2 more songs and you have an album. And the thing is, the label bought like 20 songs and we only released 10. It's just like, another 10 is lost forever. I don't have that money to buy back. Yeah. So it's just like, shove.
So they basically took 20 songs from you and then you finish your commitments, but you don't even know if they're going to release the rest.
It's not going to be released because I'm not like the one on the record.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
It's
seeing
like,
we're music like
we're in
this. This is very ironic. This is very ironic, but I totally get where you're coming from. Like, it's just, to me, it's not right to do it like that. It's just they see everything as numbers. They're not appreciating the work that's being put in from like the artist end. So yeah, that really sucks for you, but I'm still very glad that you've finally put together this album, and I really appreciate the thought you put into, like, you know, like the national anthem. When I heard that, I was so excited, and then like the whole story that you're trying to tell. I'm sure that your fans really, really appreciate that it's finally coming out.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, so musically, this album is full of like grungy, like immersive samples and like effects in it. Were there any references particularly that inspired this new evolution? Because I feel like the theme has stayed the same for quite a while, but musically, I think there's been some changes recently.
I mean, definitely sound more like punk. But I guess like to me, it's about the feeling. It's not really about the sonic. Like, I just want to express my, you know, how I feel about living in like an oppressed society. So I guess I would want to shout or like scream, and that happens to be called punk.
Yeah. So it's just more about like the attitude.
Yeah,
more than anything else.
Well, for me, it's about conveying your feelings. I think that's what differentiates artists or like music. You know, like good or bad music. The good one will communicate, and the bad one won't.
Yeah, even if they're trying to communicate a message which is like good, but if they don't execute it, if they don't execute it well, I think that in itself is not it's not perfection, because the message isn't being communicated like across. Yeah. So with this album, obviously you have many specific themes that come through very strongly and has always come through in your music. So obviously talking about oppression, talking about like political issues, and of course also about feminism. I love that you are a huge feminist, and it's always been running through your music as well. What is it that, you know, makes all of these themes come to you so naturally, and like why do you want to talk about them so openly in your music?
Yeah, I wonder. Like for me, I feel a bit like what do you call it? Self-centered. You know, if I just talk about my heartbreaks, just like why the hell does people have to listen to my sob story? Like, so if I have a chance to provide something to the world, I would love to, you know, say something more important than my love story,
like more productive.
Yeah, something more like beneficial to the society as a whole.
Understand. But I still think, like, going back to my previous point about, you know, communicating that message, making sure it resonates with people, and doing it, you know, in a way that's artistically unique, I think that's still very difficult because, you know, my platform has always supported artists who are very outspoken, but I've seen so many, you know, artists who, some of them, maybe they convey the message better than others. And I feel like the balance between activism and creativity is one that's like really hard to like balance. So how do you do that? Because I feel like you do a very good job.
You have to be funny. Yeah, you have to like dumb down a lot of the things, you know, like they said. I mean, I read something about like people saying that, oh, like Drake lyric is like a third grader, like, you know, literacy level. And like, to me, that's great because it makes songs very accessible to people. Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do. Like, the topic is so hard, so it's very suffocating. But how do I make it simple and fun for people so that they have like a foot in the door approach?
Exactly. Because I think someone told me this about Malaysian music, because I was having a conversation with an artist about women in music in Malaysia, and you know, like it's not great for women over there because of like the religious structures and politics and all that. And she was releasing a song which was about feminism, and I was like talking to her about how do you make it palatable, and she said the same thing as you. She was like, you have to make it funny, because for the audiences, they're gonna be very like not receptive to it, or even be like, no, like this is not how I feel if you don't make it funny, because I think like Malaysian culture is also like very humorous. But I think that's very interesting because I think it speaks to like the cultural dynamics as well. I don't know if you've heard this artist. She's also an activist called Jaguar Jones, and she's like the leader of the Me Too movement in Australia. No. But she's Taiwanese Australian. I told her about you as well because I was like, you guys have like the same vibe. You should like check her out, and she should check you out. Yeah. But so she was the one that raised this concern to me about the balance between activism and creativity, and how it's taken even like a mental toll on her because she's had to be very outspoken about, you know, her sexual harassment and like abuse and things like that. And yeah, so I think her being from the West, she can be a little bit more serious about the ways that she puts it forward in her music. Like she can be more explicit. Whereas like it's really interesting to hear from you, and also that Malaysian artist called Su Winchi, where you guys were saying, you know, you have to be, in a sense, like make fun of it. Yeah. So yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Actually, that's like the approach of 88 Rising.
Which one? The funny one or
the funny one?
Okay.
And to me, it's like quite sad that why does Asian like needs to be like make a joke in order to become like popular? Yeah. Yeah, that to me is like quite sad. Yeah. But that's how it is.
It's an Asian thing, and I think Asian people are not good with like confrontation as well. Yeah. But still, I feel like the message comes through very, very strongly in your music. So in terms of the feminism, you have songs like Dictatorship, which I love. It's really like, I love the wordplay. And then you also have Wet, which is one of the singles coming off the album. So can you share with us a little bit about what this song is about and what you were trying to say with this song?
Like for me, like Wet is just like empowerment song. Like it depends. I didn't specifically mention what the event is about, but it's just about like owning, like, you know, like owning it. Yeah, as a woman. Yeah, it's like I like using sexual like wordplays together.
So does Jaguar Jones. She does it a lot too. She has a song called Swallow.
Okay. Yeah. So what is it about though?
Like telling the patriarchy to suck a dick.
Okay, exactly like my song.
I know, that's why I was like, I sent her your Spotify, and I was like, go listen. She hasn't replied me, but I'm sure she was like, oh, I haven't heard of her, I'm gonna go check her. Yeah, so I think I see a lot of like parallels.
Gotta send her Dictatorship.
I will. She's gonna love it. I'll connect you guys for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, but so I think that it's really helped. I think it's really great that you talk a lot about feminism in your music, and you try to make it palatable, because especially if we don't, like, I think it comes off as like angry Asian women, and then like people like also stop listening because they feel that, you know, you're assertive, you're angry, and you're not in the right state of mind, or you're like too emotional. You know, it plays into those stereotypes, so it's like quite hard to find that balance.
You know what that is?
What?
Gaslighting.
Yeah. It basically, like, all men do is just gaslighting. Like, everything can be tied back to gaslighting. I totally agree. But I mean, as someone who's from Thailand, I was also really interested to know, like, from your perspective, what is the climate for like women in Thailand or like women in music right now?
Not gonna lie, I think we have very high gender equality.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of women CEO. I feel like
Nice.
Thailand is a matriarchy.
Awesome.
Like to begin with, because
Cool.
like mom figure is a big thing, and like Thai men are kind of softer.
Okay.
They're scared of their wives. They're scared of their wives, but they do cheat. That's the thing. We have the highest like divorce and cheating rate too.
Oh.
But then they're like submissive.
Interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Shanghai. Like Shanghainese women, I've heard, are like more like
tiger moms.
Yeah, and they're like very fierce, and they're like all the men are like kept men. But China is still, the gender equality situation is like one of the worst in Asia. So yeah, but yeah, because currently we're working on a series of articles about different countries and the series, like the climate for women in music in those places. So I was just really interested to know your perspective so that we could like do some research about Thailand moving forward if we wanted to do a piece on that.
I think it's very forward when it comes to like gender equality. One of the highest I felt.
Okay.
Yeah, because now the equal rights marriage is about to be like the bill is about to be passed. Yeah, just like one more step left, but then like it's like there.
Awesome. And do you think that sentiment is pretty consistent across most of the country, or is it something that's being more pushed by like younger people, or how, because with Taiwan, which was the first place to pass the gender equality law, they are also seen on the surface as like very progressive, like very liberal, but when they tried to pass a law, they did a referendum, and the referendum actually came back as negative. Like most people didn't want to pass a law for marriage equality, and the younger people were so shocked because they had just been living in like this bubble, and they didn't realize that so many people were actually against what they stood for. So I wonder if it's like that in Thailand as well.
The thing is, like, it doesn't really matter who is happy or like who isn't, because like the law would only be passed if it benefits like 0.1% of the society. Yeah, so if it benefits economically to the 1 or 0.1% or like the politicians, then yes, anything could be done.
Right.
Look at Thailand, like weed legalized, and now like magic mushroom coming through. It's all about money.
Right. And do you think that the marriage equality issue is also about money, and like how, like, is it tourism or?
It's about money, I'm sure.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want to lobby politicians, just tell them how to make money, and yeah, you will get what you want.
I see. Yeah, interesting. So going back to the topic of women in music, like you are a producer and a singer-songwriter. Like you basically do a lot of what you do by yourself. Are you like one amongst the majority who are like that in Thailand, or like what's the makeup of like the industry in Thailand in terms of women? Are they mostly just artists, or are they singer-songwriters? How about like behind the scenes, producers, sessionists?
I feel like there are many successful independent artists in Thailand, but I think everybody would have some sort of like support, you know, like artist service support or like manager support. Yeah. In which I don't, but I also don't mind, you know, like supporting myself, because to me, I'm, you know, people see me as like super artsy fartsy like person, but I'm also very logical. I'm an INTJ.
I'm INFJ.
Okay, sisters.
Sisters.
Yeah, so like I have that, you know, like whatever Elon Musk, Steve Jobs traits, and I can actually manage life, you know,
by yourself.
Yeah, I'm super organized.
Awesome. Yeah, but in terms of like, for example, in most other parts of the world, like there's a lot of male domination in like producer fields, for example, and sessionist like fields. Do you see that in your own experiences in Thailand as well, or is that not really the case? Like women are still found in these kinds of professions quite liberally?
I don't know any woman producer in Thailand.
Okay.
Yeah, also I've never been in a session with a woman producer ever anywhere in the world.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many sessions have you done?
Oh wow.
Just a rough, like in the tens, hundreds?
Probably in the hundreds.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And you've never been in a session with a female
That
producer?
would be myself. be in a session with myself.
Which is basically all your work.
Yeah, just me alone in the room.
But so are you including like songwriters as well in the session, or just in terms of like the producer?
Oh, songwriters, there's a lot of women songwriters.
But it's just in terms of the producer, it's always a guy. Okay, interesting. So overall, like, I mean, the fact that this is something that comes to the forefront in your music, that change needs to be made, and you want to have like these empowering messages for women so that they're represented and people can really relate and resonate with them, that means that there's change that still needs to happen. So how do you think we can, you know, be better about change, especially like as women within the music industry?
I mean, first, I'm really thinking now that you mentioned, like, why is that so? And me, from someone who did like a night class at SAE back then, like 12 years ago, doing music production, all of my classmates are men. And I think a lot of the women would feel very intimidated to be in like a room like that. Yeah. Like, what I just happened to like not give a fuck.
Care.
But that you're
fine. Like a 0.1%.
Yeah, and other people would kind of, you know, be super intimidated, I realize. Yeah. I don't know how do we change that?
Yeah, I think it's like an awareness issue as well, because I have had women in the industry tell me that they think that gender inequality doesn't exist. And they're like literally veterans who've been in the industry for like decades. And I'm always thinking to myself, like, why is that? And I just feel like their definition of gender equality is very numbers based. It's like 50-50. Like, because when I talk to other people who don't understand gender inequality or equality, they say, especially within a corporate space, they're like, oh, 50-50, 50 men, 50 women, gender equality. And I'm like, it doesn't work like that, you know? So I think it's like a very simplified understanding of the nuances of gender equality. And I think that we have that in Singapore as well, because most of the women that I talked to, like the women in music, they didn't have very strong opinions about gender equality. They felt that, you know, they've never been like sexually harassed. And I feel, I didn't question too much, but to me, I feel like just because you're not sexually harassed, like you haven't actually had like trauma from those experiences, doesn't mean that you're not being discriminated against, right? You know. And for me, as someone who's like in the business side of the industry as well, like I think I see a lot more of that, like what goes on behind the scenes. Because in like a session, if you're with like other, you know, with the guys and everyone's being chill, you know, just being creative, obviously you wouldn't see the inequality that happens. But when you're in the room with decision makers and like you're not getting a seat at the table, I think to me it becomes like very obvious that there is a lack of awareness, which is where I'm coming from. And I think it's like kind of a bit like that across Asia from what I've seen.
I think in Asia it's still better than in Europe.
Really?
Now that I have lived in London. Yeah, I've been in sessions with like female artists who told me that they intentionally don't wear makeup and wear their pajamas to session because they don't want to be like sexually harassed. I have like a very hot friend, and she's like, I don't dress up at all because there's like, you know, history like doing that.
Yeah, especially like in the production stage. Like there's so many stories about like, you know, women being asked to do certain things and stuff like that, and I think it has a bad rep, but for good reason, you know, because like these things are still happening like over and over again. And it happened to my friend as well, Jaguar Jones. Like that's why there's like this whole case and all of that. So it could happen to anyone. But it's very interesting that you mentioned that it's even worse in Europe, because I feel like they have more knowledge, I guess, about gender equality and like more educational resources. But at the same time, I do know that the situation can be quite bad in terms of like the percentage of like sexual harassment or like discrimination happening, which is weird to think about. But I think change just needs to happen like across the board.
I don't think there ever been like a female female artist in a music industry that hasn't been sexually like harassed, assault, or like, you know, SHSA. I think everybody has experienced at least like once, including myself. And also like I think I'm similar to my like hot friend who was in that session.
Yeah.
Like to me, I like dressing like this in my like free time.
Yeah.
You know, like very like boyish.
Mm-hmm.
Because like tracing back down, I just don't like to be like looked at or like catcalled.
Yeah.
And then I intentionally pick, you know, this style of boyish fashion choice.
Yeah.
So that I can just like completely shut down that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I think like when you think about like why do you dress the way you do, I also realize like over time that I'm dressing to conceal like something, and maybe it's because of like comments being made that shouldn't have been made about my body, and I'm just like, I just want to avoid that. Like even when you're like on this, like your colleagues are like, oh, you know, you're dressing really nice, are you going for a date? And it's coming from women, you know. I'm like, why the fuck can I dress the way that I want for myself, you know? So yeah, I get that it's really frustrating, and it affects the way that we dress and everything as well. But going back to your album, I know that you must get asked this a lot, but I wanted to know what's your favorite track on the album, or the one that you're most proud of.
I mean, I like Wet, of course. Okay. That's why it's like the focus track of the album. That's why I place it last.
Yeah.
Although it's done like all around the same time. I think it's also because I feel that it's easy, quite simple. Like the music is not too busy, like in the verse. And drum and bass is actually my favorite like genre, electronic genre. So I would love to like drop a drum and bass / UK garage track.
Nice. Yeah. So what is your hope for this album now that it's out into the world?
There is no hope in the world.
You just turned my words against me. I love that.
That's really how I felt in like the PYRADISE Island.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean we can be as hopeful as we want, but as long as there's still like a tyrant up top, like the only way is to overthrow them. Yeah. Otherwise,
so
it's hopeless.
Everyone needs to do their part, because if it's just like a couple of people fighting against the system, then it's never going to change.
Yes. We can unfuck the system together, and that's my last track of the album.
You're such a good salesperson. I love it. Yeah. Anyway, that was my last question, but thank you so much for being here with us. Like I had so much fun talking to you about
likewise
women empowerment and your album, and like honestly, I'm gonna play it all the time. Like I already have it on repeat, saved in my Spotify and everything. But we look forward to everything else that's gonna come up for you moving forward.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm so sad we didn't get to eat this.
No, you can eat it now.
Speaking.
You can eat it now.
This is so good.
I know. And it's 0% sugar.
This is not real.
Yeah, I know. It's nice.